Hello and welcome back to my channel. We are continuing on with the sequin Santa stocking, and we're starting with his hat. And we're just going to do a stem stitch of, it calls for 4 strands of white, and we'll basically be doing the stem stitch throughout the entire stocking. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that off camera. I will show you bits and pieces here and there, but I don't want to repeat myself over and over. So there's this cute little pattern. It's kind of like a stripy pattern that we're creating with the stem stitch. And if you notice, the instructions itself give a really great visual on where each stitch goes and where the sequins and beads go. We are adding red sequins and red beads to match to the hat. So I'm just going to finish the stem stitch, and I'm just showing you a little bit of it so you can have an idea of how to continue on. And I think we're using 4 strands for the stem stitch throughout the entire stocking. So I'm just going to continue this off camera and I will come back. Okay, so now that we have that finished, we're going to add, see what I like to do is I like to add the embroidery first and then the beads and sequins. The reason why I do this is because I don't have anything to snag on, and it gets a little bit trickier as you make more of the items of the stocking, because when you're embroidering, your thread gets stuck in the beads and may yank the beads, or especially if they're loose. So I like to always embroider first and then add beads and sequins second. So here I am adding beads to the hat, and I am using 2 strands of red. I like using 2 strands because it's more secure. So it's definitely a personal preference. It only calls for 1 strand, but I always use 2. And you will need to be using the beading needle for the beads, because the beading needle is a little bit thinner and will be able to pass through the bead easier. The applique needle is, the eye of it is too thick to go through the bead. And you'll know right away whether you picked up the applique needle or the beading needle. So, awesome. All right, so I'm going to add the rest of the beads onto this hat. And when I'm done with a line of beads, I like to do a double knot in the back. And then once I'm done, I'll snip the tail, and then I'll re-knot it and do the rest of the beads. Okay, so now that the hat is finished, we are going to applique it onto the stocking. And I use straight pins to keep it in place, and I'm using 1 strand of red that matches the felt. And I'm just going to grab just enough of the green felt to applique it with. Depending on how thick or thin your felt is, you may need to go all the way through, or you can just grab little fibers here and there. Felt is very forgiving when it comes to sewing, so even if you grab just a little bit of felt fibers, it'll stay together. So I'm going to applique this, and then we're going to stuff it. Okay, so I stopped right about 3/4 of the way, and I'm using polyester fiber fill. You can buy this at any craft store, or you can buy it at Walmart for really cheap. I think I got a big bag of it for like $6, and it's lasted me many kits. So I highly suggest you get a large bag of fiber fill. There's all different kinds, and some people prefer other kinds. I just grabbed the generic kind, the kind that you stuff dolls with, and sometimes the bag will have a picture of a doll. So I don't really have a specific kind that I like to use. I just kind of grab what's available. And once you have it stuffed to where you want it, try not to overstuff. And then you close it. And you'll know if it's overstuffed if you're having a hard time closing it, or if it like bulges out a little too much. A little goes a long way with stuffing. So just kind of gauge with your fingers and kind of, you know, press it in between your fingers and figure out, okay, is it too thin, too thick? More often than not, you'll overstuff rather than understuff. So, okay, hat is finished, and now we're going to jump to the next. I'm checking the pressure of the stuffing. It's good. So, we're going to jump to the second part of the hat, which is these little parts. It's like a crimson red color. They're kind of stripes, and there's nothing on them. So we're just cutting them out and appliquing them onto the hat. And I'm using straight pins to anchor them so they don't move around. And then I'm going to use the applique stitch. And when you're appliquing on top of a piece that's been stuffed, do not go through the stuffing. Just go through the felt layer beneath it. That's all you need to do. When I made my very first stocking, I definitely went through the stuffing, and one, it was hard to do, and two, it ruined the 3D effect. So don't do it. I've made that mistake before. So here, I'm just showing you how I knot it. So I just grabbed a piece of felt underneath and just created a double knot on top. And then I hide the tail like this. And that's how I double knot when I'm appliquing on top of a stuffing piece. Simple as that. And you'll barely see the knot if you make it small enough. Okay, so right here I am measuring out for making the pom-pom template. And it calls for like a square. I'm just using my fabric measuring tape here because it was just right next to me. So I'm actually going to turn this over because this side is a lot easier to write on. The other side has like this coating on it that pencil doesn't show up very well. So I'm like, no, I'm going to switch it over. Okay, so we're doing, it's like a 1.5 mark here. And then we're going to go down from that. I'm going to go down 1.5. And I'm going to cut this out. Just marking my lines to give me a better idea. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just doing what the instructions told me to do. So for the pom-pom, so in the kit it came with yarn to make the pom-pom, and I thought, well, yarn frays and yarn can fall apart, and why I like the idea of a yarn cotton ball pom-pom, I think it would be better to use thread, like embroidery thread. This is my personal choice. I felt like it would last longer. That's just my opinion though. So go ahead and use the yarn in the kit, but I decided to grab some extra white thread that I just have because I have tons of extra white thread. I keep all my extra thread from previous kits and I just use that. And it calls for 3 yards of white yarn in the kit, and I just used the thread instead. So yeah, And making the pom-pom was interesting because it calls for using like a few drops of glue, and I'm like, what kind of glue would I use? It's not specific. It just says apply a few drops of glue in the center of the bundle. And I'm like, what do I have that's related to glue? Because I don't keep a lot of glue in my house for obvious children reasons. But I think I decided I would try to use like hot glue and see how that worked. I think it turned out pretty nice. So here I am gathering all of the white. So 36 inches is a yard, by the way. Sorry, my nose is all stuffy. So we're just going to use this template that we made, and we're going to wrap it around. Doesn't matter which side, really, it's equal. We're going to wrap it around until we run out. And then we're going to take another white piece of thread and we're going to put it through the middle. And we're going to tie off the middle. So I'm just going to slide this out of here. Carefully so it doesn't unravel. And then I'm just going to squish it, and then I'm going to make a tie in the middle, and I like to tie it several times. It says to tie the bundle tightly in the center with 3 strands of white thread. So what I decided to do was I knotted the end, and I kind of used my my needle as like a way to hold the thread, and I just did 2 strands, doubled it over, and I kind of made a loop with that. That's kind of how I started my bundle. I know it says to use 3, but I just used 2. And again, it's because I'm using thread. If I was using yarn, I probably would use 3. So already you can see it's similar to what we want. And I'm going to wrap this several times. And I'm going to tie it using my needle. Honestly, there's no wrong way to do this. You can even like use a colored yarn. Like if you have extra yarn, like if you don't want to use white, you can use a totally different color if you wanted. I just chose to do it this way because I felt like it would last longer. I don't know. And I like the way it turned out. I think it turned out really cute. So I'm just tightening this until I feel like it's secure. And I'm going to knot it in the middle. If I can get my needle in there. Okay, so I'm going to double knot it in the middle. Extra secure. Okay, so we got it to this point, and now we get to cut the ends and bring the ends together with some type of glue. So I'm going to cut these ends like so. I'm doing little bits at a time because sometimes the string will pull. Also, when you're making pom-poms, the cuts that you make are not going to be like exact. So after you've cut all of the loops, Make sure that you go back, fluff it up, and trim off the longer pieces so it's a little bit more even. You want your pom-pom to be nice and circular, circular-ish. And then you can use that side to fix the other side. So now we get to cut these loops. There's all kinds of ways you can make pom-poms. I'm just using the way that the kit is telling me for this tutorial's purpose. I think there is even like pom-pom kits that you could make, that they have these little devices that make pom-poms. I don't know. I don't have any. I just use the methods that are given to me. Okay, fluffing it up and cleaning it up. Yeah, always make sure you clean up your pom-pom. Nice and pretty. And throughout this process, I was trying to debate on how I was going to like what kind of glue I was going to use. I was thinking hot glue, or what was the other glue I was thinking of? Like crafting glue. What's it called? Like Elmer's glue. But I figured Elmer's glue may be too messy. So I was just like, Eventually I went with hot glue. Just like the tiniest bit of hot glue. Just to like bring the bottom edges together. You see how it's not quite circly? Over time this will fluff up. Right now this is a bunch of strands put together, but it actually, like, the end result turned out nice and fluffy. So just getting some extra strands there. I don't know, if I could go back and do it again, I would try it with yarn just to see how it would look. I'm sure the yarn would be sufficient enough. I just honestly thought that the yarn would just like lose its poof over time, you know? I don't know. I could be wrong. What do you guys think? Maybe if I make another one like this, I'll try it with the yarn. I just felt like the thread would match better. I don't know. Yeah, work it a lot, move it around a lot, fluff it up a lot, get it to where you want it. It took me a while to get it to this point, so it's finally to where I want it. I put the tiniest drop of hot glue in the middle of those to kind of bring them together somewhat. And then I just used an old toothbrush. This is clean, by the way. And I just kind of fluffed it up together into like, you know, one little thing. And I trim as I go to make it look even and everything. And honestly, I think it turned out really nice. So if you're using yarn, the brush will fluff it up even more. Because this is thread that I'm using, it's not going to fluff up as much. But the effect is still the same. It still looks like a pom-pom. And I'm just going to cut off the excess here. Push it every which way and make sure that you're not cutting off too much. Just little bits at a time. Little tiny bits. Just enough to where you're like, okay, this looks like an actual pom-pom. Because this is going at the tip of the hat. And it's going to just kind of hang there. So here I am being a perfectionist. If you're a perfectionist, these kits are amazing. They fill that need, you know. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere here. Not too bad, honestly. For hot glue, not too bad. You don't need that much. It's literally just bringing the bottoms together. And then just take your time and fluff it up as much as you want. I just know that this will hold up in storage. So, okay. I'm brushing my pom-pom. See, it's got kind of pom-pommy look to it. I liked how it looked. This would be really cute as a garland, like making a whole garland of these. That would be super cute. You can make them in different colors too. Okay, so now that we're done with the pom-pom, we're going to attach it to the end of the hat. And I'm using the string that I tied it with to do so. So I am just putting it, I'm kind of using the pictures and the guide for reference and placing it where I want it. So I'm just doing it by eye, and I just I attach it in several places and secure it really, really good. Because you want it to be in the right position, but you also want it to look like it's still kind of just like hanging off the hat, you know, and not like plastered on. So I'm going straight through the middle and making sure that this is not going anywhere. And then once you have it attached, you can refluff it up and it'll be fine. Perfect. This turned out so cute. See, even embroidery thread looks great in a pom-pom. You can make pom-poms out of anything. I think I've even seen people make them out of felt, like strips of felt, make a pom-pom. I haven't done one of those yet, though. I've only made them with thread and with yarn. Certain yarns are better than others, I've learned. Okay, so now that we got that on there, we are ready to move on to the next step. And the next step is we are going to put the bottom of the stocking on. So there's a strip of red that matches the hat that goes on the bottom. And I think it's supposed to be like his jacket, like his red suit, like the top of his red suit. So that is also beads and sequins, and it also has the same stem stitch, so it matches, so it's cute. His coat matches his hat. So I did that ahead of time because I already showed you everything. So we're just going to applique it, and then we're going to stuff it. So I like to stuff this kind of thing in sections because it is a little bit thinner in areas. So I will, embroider to a point, and then I'll do a little stuffing, and then embroider stuff, and kind of just go all the way along the bottom in little sections. Okay, so that's what the bottom looks like. Very lightly stuffed. It doesn't look lightly stuffed, but it actually really is lightly stuffed. Like this fiberfill is really, really fluffy. So really, you don't need a lot. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more. I will be continuing this stocking in the next week or so. So make sure you don't miss those, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.